Since I'm between projects, I have just tons of scraps like you probably do laying around your shop, and I'm gonna use my Shaper Origin to see if I can turn this stack of crap and scraps into cash using the Shaper Origin and looking on Etsy to see what people are buying and what they might be interested in. So one thing you're always going to find on Etsy that sells well are coasters, but not any coasters. These are going to be custom coasters. We're just going to use this scrap I had from some kind of cutting board I think I was making. It's about 5/8 inch thick, so it's a little bit thick for this application, but I'm going to plane it down really quickly, and then it'll be thin enough, and I'm going to make coasters out of this more. Now, tip, instead of just doing Buffalo Bills or some NFL franchise, there's tons of people doing that. If you're trying to sell, and especially sell to people around you, consider logos from those companies, those brands, maybe those teams, those local teams. Those are going to be able to sell for more, and you're going to have a much more direct audience. You might even be able to sell for cash versus going through something like Etsy. Plus, the market's super saturated for something like an NFL logo. So maybe that's not the way to go, but I'm just going to show you the concept here. So, got this piece of scrap. We're going to go from here. First and most important part of any of these, so I'm just going to do this once so you see it, but have your calipers and check the thickness. That's really important to have because that way I can tape this right to the top here and cut into it, and I shouldn't cut into the tabletop. That's how precise this is, which is super nice about it. So, double-sided tape here, then we'll just press them down. I'm actually going to go horizontal with this, and we're going to use our Shaper plate. All right, I've already designed it over on Shaper Studios, so we're just going to import that design. So here's where it gets kind of cool. So let's say I want to add this Bills logo here. So what I can do is go add to scan, and then all I have to do is pick this up, push OK. Now I see there's kind of this old circle because I was making some circle ones also. But what's cool is I can actually import these NFL logos. All right, now I have the Bills here, and obviously that's going to be too big for what I want, so I'm going to scale this down a little bit. But I'm not actually going to follow this over here, because obviously it would go into it. I just want this kind of like front part. I think that's the kind of cool part. So I'm going to say place that. All right, so I've swapped out to my engraving bit, so when I go to cut, I need to make sure that I switch this to engrave and say OK. I want to say it's on the line, whatever line that is. And basically, I need to be really aware of where the edge of the pentagon is because I don't want to hit my Shaper plate. Finished. That took about 20 minutes, so not crazy long. I ended up cutting 4 pentagon-shaped coasters here that are custom. I think this is part of that debate of like CNC or Shaper. Again, if you have the space for a CNC, this would make a lot more sense. It's easier to make profit that way, all that kind of stuff. But for scraps, for something that I'm gonna like throw away probably anyway, this is a really good use of those scraps to make something interesting. I could try to sell it on Etsy. I could just keep it for myself because I love the Bills. But once I've removed that, I have the best part, which you need one of these little extra tools. It's in one of my other videos, but get one so you can help pry things up because these do get stuck. And then if we measured correctly for how thick we cut this, these should be able to come out fairly easily. That one hurt. So very similar to like, if you ever got those balsa wood planes when you were young, feels a bit like that. Rip it out of there. Didn't feel great, but then you can kind of just break it off here. Again, that's one of the benefits of just using those calipers and making sure you get the right depth. So then the last thing you'd want to do, get yourself one of these Duragrit sanders. This isn't sponsored, but these things are awesome, and they're kind of like permanent sandpaper. I find myself going to this all the time. I think this one's like an 80 grit, and it's really good for rough sanding. There you go. Go Bills.